Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, everybody. So listen, guys, we have breaking news right now from Ukraine. Well, I guess from Poland. So Polish jets have been scrambled. And as I understand it, right now, they are in the air and that situation is developing. But what I also want to talk about is Keir Starmer's plan to get British boots on the ground. Now, these plans have been revealed a couple of times, whether that be by accident, whether that be by direct questioning, and whether that be by actual fatalities on the ground in Ukraine. So, first of all, I don't think anyone can deny now, that British boots are not operating on the ground. Why? Because there's been fatalities. So, before I get onto that, I just want to I get a lot of inbox messages from people saying, should I join the army? My son wants to join the army, or what should people do? And I'm not at a crossroads. My opinion is my opinions. What I tell people all the time. What I tell people all the time is, I joined the military at 16, probably too young to join the military. When I left the military, my experience and my knowledge it opened so many doors for me, and I was able to walk into jobs that you just wouldn't be able to walk in from any other walk of life. And I understand how things work. I understand how all this skullduggery behind the scenes works. So when people ask me, Sean, if you had your time again, would you join the military? I have to say yes. And I get it. I totally get it, guys. 100%. I totally get it. And when I joined the military in the 90s, the world was different. You could argue, it was the beginning to the end. But, the world was totally different in the 90s. When I joined the military in the 90s, it was like we didn't have... There were none of these threats of global conflict, World War III. None of that was even on the cards. September the 11th happened. I remember I was on the range when that happened. And then that put the West into a 20-year conflict cycle. And I can remember coming back from these these conflict cycles, and you would speak to people who, you go to these functions and you meet people who've left and they're veterans, and they come back for a Christmas party or something. And, you speak to them, and some of them were talking about, operations in Northern Ireland. And I'll just be quite clear with everybody right now. The operations in Northern Ireland were not even close to the intensity and the ferocity of the operations in Afghanistan. They just weren't. They're not even remotely. You would never say anything to these older guys, and they say, "Oh yeah, we used to do the same thing in Northern Ireland." And I was like, "Yeah, you kind of didn't. You really didn't." And I think that's what we're going to have a similar situation on. The generation that are in the military now, who's serving now, or maybe people who are just leaving school right now, they're going to be involved in a conflict, and they will be talking to people in the future. And those people in the future will be saying, "Oh yes, when I was in Afghanistan, it was the same. We did similar things." And it really won't be, because the conflicts that we're heading towards now, it's going to be absolute carnage. I don't think words do it justice to say what we're heading towards right now. So I'm just going to read you guys a comment that Andrew Bridgen posted, I think yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. Last night, actually. Yesterday morning, sorry. So Andrew Bridgen posted this. In fact, I'll share this with you. Give me a second. So Andrew Bridgen posted, "Commentators are now opinioning that our political leaders have placed us on an irreversible path to war with Russia. The truth is that the path was laid out almost 4 years ago via our proxy war in Ukraine. I think it was laid out a lot longer than that. A lot longer than that, guys. I really do. I think this has been laid out a lot longer. I don't believe war is unavoidable. That's part of the propaganda. Just say no. Unfortunately, you know, he's right. Not unfortunately, he's right. Unfortunately, not enough people will listen to this. Not enough people will listen. And the reality is, when that call is given, lots of people will answer that call. You know, lots of people will answer that call. So before we get on to this, guys, I just want to start. In fact, let me pull the chat on. Sorry, I do apologize. The chat's off, and I hope I don't get kicked off again. So right now, guys, there's some. Let me jump this. Right, so there was a huge. Here we are. So last night, Russia launched more than 650 drones, and in fact, let me share this with you guys. So last night, Russia launched more than 650 drones and dozens of missiles. We've heard from Vladimir Zelensky, who said the attack overnight targeted our energy sector, civilian infrastructure, and virtually all aspects of daily life, with 2 people killed, including a child. More than 650 drones. And these drones don't come back, guys. When we talk about these drones, they are, you know, they're basically long-range cruise missiles. They're slow, long-range cruise missiles, and we're talking about these ones, these type of drones. So when you talk now, you know, when we talk about 650 drones, and these are not small either. These are, you know, these are big Shahed type drones. The manufacturing capability, you know, and the industrialization of this conflict now, we are running so far behind at the West, and we are going to have our young men and women pay for that with blood. They're going to have to trade blood for time, and that's the reality, and that's what happens in any conflict. The governments will be lacking political will. They'll be saying, no, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And then it happens. And then everybody's on catch up, and our young men and women pay for that with, you know, they trade blood for time. So I just want to throw this out there, guys. Okay, so Poland scrambles fighter jets after Russia targets Western Ukraine, armed forces say. Polish and Allied fighters were deployed this morning after Russia launched airstrikes towards Western Ukraine near Poland's border, the armed forces said. And I'll tell you why this is so dangerous. Fighter jets were scrambled, and ground-based air defense and radar reconnaissance systems were put on heightened readiness, the operational commander of Poland's armed forces said. These measures are preventative in nature and are aimed at securing and protecting the airspace, especially in the areas adjacent to the threatened regions. It comes months after Poland closed its airspace as the Air Force scrambled jets in response to a Russian attack on Kiev in September. Poland has been forced to deploy its jets on several occasions since Russia has invaded. Now, these are the problems. These are the problems this is how this conflict will start. If I was a betting man, I would say that this conflict in Ukraine, that is where it's going to start. It's going to start by Poland. You know, I'm going out there. I'm going to say Poland. I'm going to say Poland's going to take down a Russian jet, and that's how it'll start. That's what I will say. It will be a NATO strike on Russia. That's what I'm saying. It will be an accident, you know, because now that Article 4 is being invoked, and if you guys don't know what Article 4 is, put it in the chat and I'll explain it. But now Article 4 is being invoked, and those Polish pilots have those rules of engagement. So before Article 4 was invoked, you know, for example, I'll give you the scenario, right? Let's just say the Russian jets, they're flying an offensive mission or whatever over over Western Ukraine. They're trying to take out bases, energy, whatever. You know, they're doing their, you know, they're doing their bombing raid or whatever. Before Article 4 was invoked, Polish jets would scramble, but then that authority to open fire, they would have to ask for that. You know, they ultimately, they would have to ask for that authority to open fire. So you can imagine, right? It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. You're sat there in the office, right? And you scramble the jet. So you're in the control room now. And I've been in these control rooms, and it's when you've got guys out on the ground and they're on the radio and they're in a gunfight and they're on the radio and you're trying to control them from the office, from the control room, from the ops room. It's fucking terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying because you can hear people's voices on the radio that you know. Like your best friends, you can hear them on the radio. Hello, Zero. This is Alpha 21 Bravo. Contact at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Way out, and then you can hear gunfire in the background. And you're like, shit, that's my mate. You know, oh fuck. And you're trying to do everything you can. You know, you're trying to do everything you can to support them. Now, you can only imagine, right? You can only imagine now, right? You know, the Polish jets have been scrambled. This is before Article 4 has been invoked. So the Polish jets are scrambled now, and you know they're on the radio. They're like, "Yep, hello, Zero," or however they talk. We've got Russian jets. They're heading towards our airspace. Do we engage? You're sat in that control room, right? And you're on your own. You might, I don't know, he might be a major, or I don't know how they work it. You know, and you're like, you know, in your head, if your fighter pilots take down those Russian jets, you know you're starting World War III. Right now, there and then, you know that you're starting World War III. And you're going to be like, oh, right, do I give this call? So it's going to be a very difficult decision to make, right? It is. Nobody's going to make that lightly. There was a similar situation in the 90s, I think it was in Pristina Airport. In Pristina Airport, what was it? I think it was 99 in Pristina Airport. 1st Battalion Parachute Regiment, you know, the Parachute Regiment Battle Group was told by the government to take Pristina Airport. Now, the Russian Armored Division had moved in there and they'd taken Pristina Airport. And I don't know if he was a general at the time, General Jackson, he said, look, I'm not starting World War III for anyone. So even as a high-ranking general, you're gonna be very cautious about those calls you make. Now, because Article 4 has been invoked, those Polish fighter jets, when they go up there, they've already been briefed. Right. We've been briefed now. Article 4 has been invoked. We've gathered everyone in. All our NATO allies are all in unanimous agreement. If Russian jets cross into Polish airspace, you take them down. So now you have the situation where, exact same scenario now, you've got the Polish fighter jets. They go up to intercept these Russian jets. Exact same scenario now. You've got these Russian jets heading towards the Polish pilot. They don't need to ask for permission anymore because it's already been briefed to them. It's already been agreed. It's already been written down on some paper somewhere and signed by member states. So now, if that is, and I think it will happen by accident, if that is a genuine mistake by those Russian, look, guys, let's be fair, right? If you know, they shouldn't be doing the bombing raids. So, you know, I can't think of better language to use than if it's a genuine mistake. But for example, if their navigation system's been fried, or if they're whatever, you know, they will need to drop low. They will need to see what's on the ground. They will need to get ground references, and they will need to use visual, you know, he might even get an A to Z out. You know, they will need to use, you know, need to use visual references. Now, if they're heading towards Poland because they're disorientated and they encroach into Poland's airspace because their navigation system has been broken, and the Polish jets shoot them down, there's no error now. There's no margin for error. Absolutely zero margin for error. So as we speak, ladies and gentlemen, there are this morning, last night actually, in fact, 2 hours ago, Poland scrambles fighter jets after Russia targets Western Ukraine, armed forces say. Polish fighter jets have been deployed this morning after Russia launched airstrikes towards Western Ukraine near Poland's border. So that's where I think it's going to start, guys. I do. It might not be Poland. It might be another one of the Baltic states, but I think it will start by accident. I've said this all along. As we are looking at this, we've got Keir Starmer coming out and saying, in fact, I've got a video on Keir Starmer. Give me a second. Sean, have you ever considered leaving the chat facility on when you finish? A lot of streams do. We can pop it out and share. I don't know how you would do that. When I close it down, when I close the chat down, when I close the live stream down, doesn't the chat go off? I don't know. I will. I'll see if I can leave it on. I will. I'll try and leave it on today, guys. I don't know. I don't know how I do it, but when I close this down, I'll try and leave it on. Is that what happened last night? No, I don't know what happened last night, guys. I was literally just on the live stream, and for some reason it stopped. I don't know why. I don't know why it stopped. So let me give you guys some context now of you know, first of all, I don't think anybody can deny that Britain do not have boots on the ground. And when you get boots on the ground in a country, it's just natural. Mission creep is natural. I don't think it's a conspiracy. I just think it's something that happens natural. So for example, you deploy a 4-man special forces team to Ukraine and you say, right, lads, you guys need to get out there. You need to be eyes and ears. Let me know what's happening on the ground. Okay. Those 4 special forces guys soon turn into 12 because, you know, you get more depth working as a group of 12. You would have a primary team, and then you would have 2 secondary teams, and they would rotate around themselves. So that 4-man team soon turns into 12. Then that 12-man team soon turns into attachments and detachments. So, for example, they may need a bomb disposal expert. They may need somebody with more knowledge on radar. They may need certain weapon. You know, they may need certain weapons experts because they may just not have that experience. So now you start to drag people in, and then you've got 30, then you've got 60, you know, and that mission creep, it's just a natural thing as the operational environment, as the operational environment grows. So Keir Starmer has discussed boots on the ground several times, and I just want to give you guys some key points. In February this year, Starmer said that the UK is ready to put boots on the ground and planes in the air as part of a peace settlement. Now, he was emphasizing this multinational force to as part of a multinational deal. In March, he updated Parliament on efforts towards a strong, I think they're calling it, what do they call it now? A just and lasting peace, noting military planning for post-ceasefire security was in the operational phase. In November, his spokesperson confirmed ongoing plans for a multinational force post-ceasefire, including British troops. And most recently, on I think it was this month, he reiterated that the UK would deploy troops if necessary to uphold a peace agreement. Now, let me just stress that you can't enforce a peace deal. It's virtually impossible. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, if the Ukrainian, like, just for example, just try and visualize it, all right? Try and visualize it. I was going to give it on the micro. Just imagine, all right, that the Ukrainians are having a gunfight somewhere. Right, and then the British troops walk behind them and they say, lads, stop shooting, there's a ceasefire. And the Ukrainians say, no, we're good, we're going to keep fighting. Like, What do? How do they enforce that ceasefire? You can't. It's not like Kosovo. It's not like Sierra Leone. It's not like Afghanistan. You literally have two front lines. In Kosovo, in Sierra Leone, in Afghanistan, in Iraq, there were pockets. There were pockets of resistance, pockets of fighters. That's not the situation. That's not what we have right now. We have two front lines. So imagine you've got British troops on this side, right? And they come up. The Ukrainians and the Russians are fighting in this location, right? They're fighting here. I don't know, the call, whatever. They're both fighting. The British troops go up to the Ukrainians and say, "Right, lads, stop shooting." And the Ukrainians say, "Yeah, we're not going to stop shooting because they're shooting at us." So what do the British do then? Do the British go over to the other side and ask the Russians to stop shooting? And what if they say no? How do you enforce a ceasefire? It's just not feasible. It really isn't feasible. But these statements, they're all aligning with this broader Western discussion on security guarantees for Ukraine and a potential peace deal. There isn't going to be a peace deal. There absolutely isn't going to be a peace deal at all. The Russians are taking ground every day, and this is going to be an active combat operation. That's what I see. That's what I see it's going to be, guys. An active combat operation. Linda Lou is saying morning. Linda Lou is saying morning. I'm late. I'm looking after those horrible things. I don't know what that means. Oh, kids. Oh no. Linda Lou's looking after grandkids and she's saying they're horrible things. Listen, guys, if you're on and you're joining for the first time, we are talking about the breaking news that jets have been scrambled over Eastern Europe. Jets have been scrambled over Poland. The Polish are, they're defending their airspace. That's where I think that's where I think this war is going to start. As a backdrop, we're going to be sending our young men and women overseas while we are absolutely flooding our shores with migrants. Now, I've got a video here from Patrick Christie, and this video is an absolute rant. So, this is Patrick Christie right now, guys, on full form. So he's on full form with this rant. Let me share this with you.
Good evening. Immigration does pose a huge risk to Britain. But the woman that Sir Keir Starmer has just selected to be the head of the Equality and Human Rights Commission doesn't want us to say it.
So just quickly, can you see how, if you appoint these people at the top, for example, if they make it illegal, right? If the government make it illegal to say, I don't want migrants in the UK, then it becomes illegal, right? And we've got no legal framework to oppose that. But the police are then obliged to arrest anyone who says that they don't want migration into the United Kingdom. That's the law. And unfortunately, we have no way of opposing that. I know that sounds wild, guys. But tell me I'm miles off the mark here. Tell me I'm way off the mark, because I don't think I am.
And I think there's a real risk there. I think it's really important that we have honesty in the way that we talk about human rights, and that we also have a recognition that the demonization of migrants, the creating this idea that migration causes, huge risks for the country, can make the lives not just of migrants to the UK, but of ethnic minority UK citizens very, very difficult.
So just before Patrick Christie jumps on, I don't think it's off the cards. I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility that at some point very soon, the government come out and say, anybody saying that they don't like migrants or they have concerns about migrants is going to get arrested and going to go to jail. I don't think that's off the cards, guys. I really don't. And just say that to yourself. Say that to yourself and make it make sense.
Well, that is Mary Ann Stevenson. And just in case you are wondering, yes, she does reportedly have long-standing connections with the Fabian Society. But let me explain to Mary Ann Stevenson.
And before he goes on to this rant, guys, this is a fantastic rant. I'm just going to let it play. I am, guys. I'm just going to let this play because it is fantastic.
So why immigration is actually very dangerous for Britain. Illegal immigrants are raping schoolgirls, like these two Afghans who came in via small boat. Asylum seekers are also committing sexual assaults, like the one that took place, sadly, against the young teenager called Abby, who we featured on our show, who bravely waived her right to anonymity last week. She was sexually assaulted by an Iranian asylum seeker. We've also got...
Just look at that girl, guys. Look at that girl. She was sexually assaulted by an Iranian asylum seeker. Look at her. What the actual fuck?
Got issues with legal immigrants from places like Pakistan, where they have been the ringleaders of the rape gangs that have been committing unspeakable crimes against predominantly working-class white girls for decades. Some of them go on to commit terror attacks, like Salman Abedi, the son of Libyan refugees who detonated a bomb in the Manchester Arena, or Mr. Jihad, real name, from Syria, who recently tried to kill Jews in Manchester. Or this gun-wielding, Hamas-supporting Palestinian small boat migrant who declared death to all Jews. He's just been released from prison and filed an asylum application. The Moroccan monster Ahmed Alid was pretty dangerous, wasn't he? He killed an elderly dog walker in Hartlepool as revenge for Gaza. I mean, he travelled through 13 countries before we just let him in. You know, why does Mary Ann Stevenson think that we have to have bollards and armed police at Christmas markets? Is that a British problem, or one that we allowed in due to immigration and a foreign ideology? And talking of foreign ideology, the introduction of Sharia courts. We are now the Western capital for Sharia courts, with roughly 85 that we know about. Or what about the rise in female genital mutilation, cousin marriage or forced marriage? We've also got fundamental changes to British culture as a result of immigration. This, for example, is Tower Hamlets in East London.
No need for that. We're on the safe side, bro. No, we're not. Yes, we are, bro.
Yeah. I mean, it's also dangerous for Britain economically. We're all paying more tax. Some of that tax, of course, is the scrapping of the two-child benefit cap. And who is going to be disproportionately benefiting from that? Pakistani, Somali and Bangladeshi families in Britain. We spend around £4 billion a year on asylum support costs. Starmer's appointment as the new head of the Equality and Human Rights Commission also thinks that leaving the ECHR is a bad idea.
Well, we obviously believe that the European Convention on Human Rights is really important. It's embedded in UK law through the Human Rights Act, and it provides rights that protect all of us.
Well, does it though, really? Because laws derived from the ECHR have allowed Jamaican drug dealers to stay in Britain if they promise to only smoke cannabis, not sell it. A bearded man from Tajikistan could stay because they'd make him shave his beard back home. I mean, it's relentless, these kind of cases. Mary Ann Stevenson thinks people like us who talk about immigration are dangerous. Well, I would say politely that in my view, I think she's pretty dangerous. People like her with her views are pretty dangerous. I think they live in a warped alternate reality and try to gaslight us all into silence. Well, we're obviously not going to let that happen.
I mean, I don't think I can't put that any better, guys. You know, I can't put that any better. We have these, you know, we have these woke liberals, absolute wokery. Absolute woke liberals, you know, coming on, you know, we have these woke liberals who are at the top of these institutions. Now, look, guys, this is why it's so dangerous, because once these people are at the top of these organizations, for example, right? For example, let's just say I promote one of my mates to be, I don't know, Chancellor for bacon sandwiches or something, just whatever, it doesn't really matter. You know, I will then tell my friend, exactly what I want him to say because I've appointed him. So I tell him what to say. So I'll say, right, mate, you know, when you're doing that report, can you make it so that, like, just throw some scientific evidence in there that bacon sandwiches give you like superpowers and make you see in the dark and see through time? And he'll say, yeah, I'll find something. And then you commission someone to write that report and then you just publish it and then you make it law. So I'm not taking it off the cards. In this draconian, you know, this draconian world that we're living in right now in the United Kingdom, you know, I'm not taking it off the cards that at some point very soon it will become illegal to say that you don't like, you don't think, you don't, it will be illegal pretty soon to say things like, I think uncontrolled migration is having a negative effect to the United Kingdom. I do. I think it will be illegal to say that. And once they pass that law, the police are obliged to follow out that law, and the police are obliged to carry out, you know, jail sentences and, you know, and crazy stuff like that. So tell me I'm miles away from that, guys, because I genuinely feel, you know, I genuinely feel that could be happening. I do. I feel that could be on the roads. And then the problem is, like I used to say with the wild example, the police will be obliged to, you know, to enforce those laws. So can you imagine somebody knocking at your door? You know, can you imagine somebody knocking at the door and saying, Sean, I heard yesterday you said that illegal migration was costing the taxpayers unnecessarily. Yeah, I said that. Well, that's actually hate speech and you've got 3 months in jail. Oh, man. Come on, then. You know, because that's the reality. You know, we spoke about this the other day. We called it what was it called? Arco tyranny, where you've got, you know, where you let the criminals do what they want, and then anybody that criticizes the criminals, you know, you send them to jail. So you get this, you know, you get this anarchy, and you also get tyranny at the same time. Anarchy in the sense that criminals being let to do whatever they want and small jail time, and then tyranny because if you complain, and then this is a concept by, I think he was a French author. He wasn't French at all. He was American. You know, and then you put in prison those people who are contradicting. You send to prison those people who are not contradicting, who are complaining about the crime rates. All right, let me jump up, guys, and get some chat. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, if you're on and you've not done so already, can you please hit that like, the subscribe button down below, the follow, the subscribe, whatever the buttons are down there, guys, whatever those buttons are down there, because I really appreciate it. Sarah Edlington is saying, I'm trying to do Christmas Blitz. Yeah, guys, listen, I am going to have to close this one down a little bit early as well, because we've still got Christmas stuff to do, because, look, we know that Father Christmas comes and Father Christmas gives the bulk of the presents, but sometimes, you know, we want to buy other presents and we want to wrap them up for people, and that wrapping paper has to be a certain wrapping paper that can't be used on any other wrapping paper, or people may know that wrapping paper has been used. So that's got to be the special one because Father Christmas uses a very particular type of wrapping paper. I don't know about you guys, but I know he does. So you can't use that same wrapping paper. Anyway, let me jump down. Linda Lewis saying legal migration isn't a threat if controlled properly, but illegal migration is. I'm going to challenge that, Linda. I'm actually going to challenge that. Legal migration isn't a threat if controlled properly, but illegal migration is. If they aren't a threat, then why are they fighting the locals around Calais and Dunkirk? That should tell us something. Yeah, so so when you walk down your high street, you know, when you walk into your supermarkets and and you've got your head down because you don't want to make eye contact with anyone, and you're seeing the absolute changes in society. people can feel it. You know, people are scared, and you should be rightly scared. The first step to dealing with this, the first step with any the first step to dealing with any problem, whether that's an addiction, whether it's bad guys on the battlefield, whether it's a medical, whatever it is, the first step to dealing with the problem is to identify the problem, right? You know, you've got to identify the problem. So I don't know, if you're on the battlefield, you do something called what is it? There's six section battle drills. The first one is preparation. So you need to prepare yourself, you know, whatever, you know, however you do that, you need to prepare yourself. Then you need to first you prepare yourself, then you react to effective enemy fire. So what do you do if you're getting shot at, right? You've got to do something, and then you have to locate the enemy. Now you can't do anything, like you can't defeat that enemy unless you've located him, right? So you know, it makes sense. You know, you can't, on the battlefield, you can't even start to put down suppressing fire if you can't locate that enemy. So a very particular battle drill is to locate the enemy. You know, like anything, you know, you need to identify the threat. You need to identify the product. You need to identify what actually is the problem. Now, this woman, what's her name? I just shared with you guys the video. I can't remember what her name is. The woman basically there who said, saying that migrants are a problem is a negative thing. Now it looks like we're diffusing that. So if we can't say, like, if it's going to be illegal to say, oh, I don't know, illegal migrants are unproportionally represented in prisons for sexual assaults against young girls. If you look at the statistics, and that's what it says, if you're looking at those statistics and you're not allowed to say that because it's illegal, how are we ever supposed to fight this problem? What I would say is the first step would be to stop the boats. That is the first step. That is that is the most fundamental step right now. It's easily achievable. It's easily achievable. It can be done within a matter of 6 hours. That's the first step. The second step, I would say legal migration is a problem. Now, it all comes down to the definition of legal. I think what a lot of people think is that legal migration, you have to be a doctor or something, or you know, you have to be a doctor or a scientist or an architect or an engineer. The reality is you can come to the United Kingdom and, you know, on a high skilled worker visa. And I think they've got ridiculous things on high skilled workers, like they've got some ridiculous things on the list of high skilled workers, like car washer or something. I don't know, hairdressers. So I think that's a problem. I do. I think that's a problem. I think when people hear the word legal migration, I think they think everything's fine, and it's not, because that window of that metric of legalities to coming into the United Kingdom. Like, for example, you know, what's that guy from the Green Party? The Green Party leader. I can't remember his name. I think he's got like a Wiskowski or something. His second name. I don't know what his name is. But I'm pretty sure that he said that he thinks that there should be an open borders policy, and he doesn't agree with borders. So as far as he's concerned, you know, there would be no such thing as illegal migration. You'd just be able to come and go as you please. So in that context, everybody would be legal. It would just be legal to come to the United Kingdom. What's the point in having a passport? You know, why bother? Why bother paying 142 quid or whatever it is for a passport? Kevin is saying, no matter what people, I think that means peoples. I think Kevin's thumbs may have slipped there. Kevin is saying, no matter what people's feelings on immigration, everybody understands the dangers on the streets. Free designer awareness and self-defense classes Oh, free danger. Sorry, danger. Sorry, danger. I think that is, yeah. Free danger awareness and self-defense classes. Get people together, then network. I think that is key, you know. When people talk about, like, I mean, I should probably do I think I'm going to do I might come back on later and do a live stream on this, actually. How do I put this? So independence is codependence. Like, I see these channels, you know, and people have this, you know, you see people, and it makes good content. It does. You know, you see these people going off into the wilderness with a backpack and a little saw and one of those flints, you know, and then, like, you know, the camera cuts, and the next thing he's been out and he's got, you know, there's a squirrel, you know, he's having roasted squirrel on a barbecue. Let everybody know something right now, ladies and gentlemen. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You've probably got 3 days tops. Literally, you've got 3 days in you tops. Like, even the best survival experts out there will tell you, like, if people are thinking about going out into the wilderness and living in the woods, it's absurd. It really is absurd. Independence is codependence. So networking in your communities, you know. I used to give this example of, imagine a row of terraced houses, right? Everybody talks, you know, over the fence. You know, everybody's talking over the fence. Imagine that row of terraced houses, and just try this yourself. You know, obviously everybody's going to be different. So just imagine the row of terraced houses. Say to the neighbor on the left, hey, should we grow vegetables this year? And say, right, okay, I'm going to grow tomatoes and I'll share half my crop with you, and you grow potatoes and you share half. And then you could get, like, can you imagine if, like, a row of terraced houses with maybe, like, I don't know, 100 houses or whatever. Can you imagine if everybody was growing food on that? First of all, it's a fantastic social thing to do. It really is, guys. It's fantastic. First of all, you get the social bonding. You'd get that social bonding in that community. You would also get free food. And I'm all about free food, guys. And also, when you grow your own food, you know, last year we did tomatoes. It was an absolute failure. We said we was going to do something this year. We didn't. The year before that, we did potatoes. When we did the potatoes, it was absolutely fantastic. Like, the girls loved going out there and foraging, like, you know, for the potatoes, and they would eat all their dinner. They'd eat all their dinner because they'd eat all those potatoes because they'd grown them themselves. So it's a fantastic thing to do. So when Kevin is saying here, get people together and network, that's like absolutely key, you know, because people are going to have skills and people are not going to have skills, and people can rely on each other. And, you know, I really do think that's I really do think that networking is key. And then Sharon Owen, is saying, well done, Sean, to listening to Sarah about the wrapping rules. Guys, listen, does everybody know that Father Christmas uses a very special wrapping paper, and that wrapping paper, you can't find it anywhere else? And no other presents get wrapped with that wrapping paper. Does everybody know that? I don't know if you know that. I mean, we certainly know that in our house. Let me jump down. Gerald of Riviera is saying, duck and cover was peak. Keep them afraid, under control programming. The emergency alert system is the new incarnation. So I was thinking the other day about the word diversity. I was thinking the other day about the word diversity, and, you know, I'll be quite honest, you know, I've spent a lot of time, and I've said this, you know, I've never said anything different. I've spent a lot of time in the Middle East, and I've had a positive experience from my time in the Middle East. Yes, some bad things have happened out there. I've seen some absolutely wild stuff. But that's over there, and that's a different culture, and that's how they roll over there. For example, when I used to be the security manager for a large NGO, and I was a security manager, and I was responsible for Iraq and Syria. So, you know, I was privy to all this information. I got all these intelligence reports off the military, off the security services. I had all that information. One of the things I always used to have to do is the day after an election. So if there was an election for, like, I don't know, the water pump minister or something, they had like wild elections out in the Middle East. Every time there was an election, what I would say to the guys is, look, guys, the day after the election, all right, take the day off, because people would go shooty. And that's the reality, you know. I would say more times, I would say it was more than 50-50. So what you would have is you have these big families, you know, and they want their guy elected, and the elections must be fair. Otherwise, you know, they wouldn't go shooty. Every time after the election, I would say, right, guys, don't come into work, because there's probably going to be people driving around with like AKs, shooting people's houses up and doing wild stuff. Now, I've totally gone off on a sidetrack here. Where was I going with this? Yeah, the diversity thing. So that's what happens in the Middle East. That's, you know, and that's my experience of it. Like, I don't think that would be a positive. I don't think that's a positive thing here in the United Kingdom. And I don't think people should be under that threat. I don't. Now, if we are diversifying, you know, our political system, by de facto, that's what we're heading towards. That really is what we're heading towards, where you don't vote for somebody because of their, you know, you don't vote for somebody because their policies, what they stand for. You vote for somebody because he's the brother of someone else, or he's the cousin of someone else. And that is a real danger. And I would say that is already happening in some parts of the United Kingdom. I'd say that's already happening in some parts of Manchester, certainly some parts of, some parts of Leeds, parts of London. So I would say that's already happening, you know, I would say that's already happening. So when we talk about diversity and equality and inclusion on a broader scale, you know, if you go to Germany, right, and you go to one of these German markets, and you get the bratwurst, and you get the big beer, and you get the traditional German stuff, right? That is the German culture, all right? That's what you experience in Germany. If you diversify that and say, no, we're not allowed to have that, we've got to be more inclusive to everyone, you don't get that anymore. You get like a mixture, and you get everything the same. And when you get everything the same, you get globalization. So when people talk about diversity, I don't know, guys, I was going on this thought train, like last night. I was thinking, when people say diversity and inclusion, and, you know, does it really mean globalization? Just think about your supermarkets now. Think about like your not strip malls. What are they called in the United Kingdom? It's not a strip mall. Your like shopping centers or whatever, your outlet centers. All right, they all have the same stores all over the United Kingdom, right? They have, you know, they have like probably right. Okay, tell me if this is you. Tell me if this is you guys. All right, where you live, you've probably got like a store or something, or like an outlet center, and it will have a supermarket. So either a Tesco's or a Morrison's or an Asda or an Aldi or a Lidl or whatever. It will have a supermarket. It may have two. It will have it will have a B&M store. So it will have a B&M. It will have maybe a Home Bargains. It will have maybe a Jysk. It will have maybe a Halfords. It will have maybe a B&Q. It will have maybe I'm just trying to think. You know, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? You know, these the way these shopping malls, and they're all the same. So where's the diversity? There's no diversity in those shops. It's literally the same shit everywhere you go, right? They'll have a Smithies. They may have a TK Maxx, Curry's, PC World. So that is not diverse. That is literal, like on the micro, that is globalization. You have the same shit everywhere. So it doesn't matter whether you live in, Barnstable or Birmingham. You know, you have got the same shops that are selling the same shit at the same prices. That's not diversity. That's not diversity, guys, at all. That is, standardization, and standardization is equal to globalization. That's the reality, guys, okay? Standardization is equal to globalization. Right, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to have to close this down now. Like I said, and I know you guys are on the same as well. Oh, Jacob is saying F-15s and F-35s scrambled at Lakenheath. Right, give me a second, guys. Just so you guys know, those jets, Lakenheath is an American airbase. I'm not getting anything on the news. If you can tell me where you're getting that information from, mate. If you can tell me where you're getting that information on, I will share that. Hang on. Yeah, Poundland and Home Bargains as well. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to close this down now because I've got presents to wrap. I've got special wrapping paper to get. I may be back on this afternoon with another live stream. I don't know, but listen, guys, I'm going to close this down now. Get your presents done. Make sure you do, guys. Get your presents done. I've got a leaky roof I need to fix, so I am going to close this down now. You guys have been fantastic and beautiful and amazing, and I bid you good morning. I will keep trying to. I will have a look on that, and I will see what this jet, if there are these jets scrambled from Lakenheath. I'll try and find that out, guys. Anyway, I'm going to close this down now, and I will see you. If I'm not on this afternoon, I'll be back on this evening at 8 o'clock. Anyway, guys, I will see you guys. I said I'm going to close this down early. I'm only like 8 minutes early, so that's ridiculous. Anyway, I am going to speak to you guys later. Remember, independence is codependence.